Call to order the Cuyahoga County Council regular meeting.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, before you get to that, I think we need to adjourn the, or go and reconvene the other meeting and then
Thank you.
adjourn from that.
I just tore up the minutes from that. Okay, we were in executive session for approximately 35 minutes. No decisions were made, and at this time, I'm going to conclude the executive session. And is there any miscellaneous business or public comment for the committee of the whole?
No, Madam Chair, there was no public
All right,
comment.
and motion to adjourn the all right. The motion is approved to conclude the committee of the whole. All right, now we're going to go on to our regular council meeting for Tuesday, October the 28th, 2014. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Calling the roll, Mr. Brady? Mr. Germana?
Here.
Mr. Gallagher?
Here.
Mr. Schron?
Here.
Ms. Conwell? Here. Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Hairston?
Here.
Ms. Simon? Here. Mr. Greenspan? Mr. Miller? Here. And Ms. Conley?
Here.
There is a quorum.
All right, please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. For a moment of silence this evening, I'd like to recognize or reflect on Connie Harper, who was the editor of the Call and Post for many years, who passed away this week, made a great contribution to the community, and also the very unexpected death of former Shaker councilwoman Lynn Ruffner, who passed away very suddenly this morning, and she actually was running for my seat here on County Council. So I'd like to reflect for a moment of silence both of those individuals. All right, moving on to item 5, public comment. Is there any public comment related to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, there is. First up is our pastors Phillips, King, and Bishop Ward. All right, I changed that. First on the roster, Ms. Chanel Smith.
Well, I appreciate it being nominated by the pastors to go first. Good evening, members of council and County Executive Fitzgerald. I stand before you here today representing the coalition who has been working diligently over the past few months with Councilwoman Sunny Simon to support the creation of the Department of Sustainability. Along with myself as the director of Emerald Cities Cleveland, we have been working with David Beach, the director of Green City Blue Lake, Mike Foley, state representative and director of Common Good Ohio, Mike Pimpsney, Environmental Health Watch, Pastor Aaron Phillips, and many others in the business community to really have a thoughtful discussion about the creation of the Sustainability Department and what it can mean for our community. Just a few short facts about sustainability and energy efficiency in general. On average, for every $1 million invested in energy efficiency, 21 direct and indirect jobs are created. And these are jobs that pay good family-sustaining wages jobs that are in the construction field, and also jobs that could happen within this manufacturing supply chain, making the parts and the pieces that go in wind turbines and for insulation in our homes. Also, we believe that the Sustainability Department can be leveraged by development finance agencies, private investors, and community-based nonprofits. Because of your leadership to create this department, a private clean energy project investment company has proposed to leverage local, state, and federal funding 1-to-8 with private investment capital to accelerate energy efficiency and clean energy throughout the county. So again, just on behalf of the coalition, we just want to thank you for your leadership in creating this department, and we're looking forward to working with you going forward as this department emerges. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Okay, and now the pastors.
Good afternoon. I should say good evening. We're here, and we're all just standing together to say, to echo what Chanel has said, that we really appreciate and thank you for the leadership in creating this office, not only from our pastor's point of view, in our church community, but also we have folks here from all perspectives of our community, of the African American community, how important this is. Just for a moment, Bishop Ward is going to speak to us about that, as well as Reverend King, who has a construction company who's certified to make sure our homes are energy sufficient. And so we just wanted to thank you again for the leadership of the Cuyahoga County Council in this area. It's good to know that we have forward-thinking statespersons in this area. Bishop?
For your information, Bishop Ward is my distant cousin.
Amen. Madam President, to members of the council, I know many
Very
of you,
distant cousin.
I know many of you personally, and I'm thankful to be able to address you and impress at the fact that this council is here to try and move our city in a positive, progressive, and productive direction. The Department of Sustainability will not only help the city, but it will help the city of Cleveland as we help our citizens be able to have more efficient energy within their homes, and will lower their costs as well. And many of us in our churches have come to hear this program, and we're willing to try it out as an experimental program to see how it will work for not only our churches, but help us to get the message to our congregants on how they can benefit from this Department of Sustainability. We hope and pray that you will pass this issue so that it becomes a part of our becoming more of a green city and gives us an opportunity to help the citizens of Cleveland, because so the city of Cleveland goes, so the county goes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Again, protocol has been established, and we have come to say thank you again for supporting this issue and the sustainability issue. We do want our parishioners and our churches and to show them how we can be efficient in this environmental and to saving energy into our homes. We want to just to come together with our parishioners and with this effort to come and to support this effort as far as our green and to sustain our energy efficient homes and energy efficient churches as well. Thank you.
Thank you, President. We really appreciate it. And thank you all for coming and being with us today.
And thank you, all of us, thank all of you for coming down, and if you have parking, they will stamp your parking ticket.
Great, thank you. That's best news. Thank you.
All right.
God bless.
Okay, anyone else signed in for public comment?
David Beach.
Mr. Beach?
So thank you very much. My name is David Beach. I direct the Green City Blue Lake Institute, which is the sustainability center at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. I'm a lifelong county resident and have been a longtime observer of environmental and sustainability programs and projects here in Northeast Ohio. And I'm here today to echo the previous comments, to thank Councilwoman Sunny Simon and her many co-sponsors for advancing a proposal to create a Department of Sustainability within county government. I just want to say this is going to be a great investment for you. Once you will find that once a sustainability manager is in place, all kinds of good things are going to happen. Once you have someone who's going to be in there asking the right questions, connecting the dots across departmental lines, good things are going to happen. Energy savings, cost savings, a healthier environment, programs to help residents, programs to help businesses become more competitive, and also increase citizen engagement on all the issues that relate to sustainability. So all around, it's going to be a very healthy thing for the county. And this is exactly what's happened in other places that have created these sorts of departments of sustainability, whether the city of Cleveland or our major universities and hospitals in Northeast Ohio. They've all seen the benefits of getting this sort of staff infrastructure in place to think about these issues. So again, thanks for the opportunity to speak in support of this. It's just a very important advance for county government. And I know I speak for many other citizens in the county who want our county to be a leader on these issues. And we're all looking forward to working with the county as this moves forward. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
No, Madam Chair, that's it.
Thank you, and thank all of you for coming in. The minutes of the meetings, the Committee of the Whole of October the 14th, 2014, and the regular meeting of October the 14th, 2014 are in your packet. If you had an opportunity to review those minutes, we'll entertain a motion to adopt them as circulated. I moved by Mr. Schrein and seconded by Ms. Conwell. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. I'm going to defer announcements of council to Ms. Conwell.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you very much. This evening, this council would like to recognize Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is October. Domestic violence touches the lives of Americans of all ages, leaving a devastating impact on women, men, and children of every background and circumstance. I would like to present this proclamation to the Domestic Violence and Child Advocacy Center for all of the awareness and hard work they do every day to combat the violence. Here this evening to accept is the CEO, Linda Johannick. Thank you very much for all that you do.
Well, I would like to thank you very much to our council, not only for this proclamation, but more importantly for recognizing how important the issue of domestic violence is. So many people don't realize how pervasive domestic violence is, and it is the #1 police call in all major cities and the #1 police call in most suburbs. 1 in 4 women will be a victim of domestic violence. Men, children are impacted as well. And the Domestic Violence and Child Advocacy Center serves 35,000 individuals just in Cuyahoga County. What we know about that number is that only 25% of victims reach out for help. So there are that many more suffering in silence at home. The good news is that the Domestic Violence and Child Advocacy Center operates many services. We have our 24-hour helpline, our confidentially located shelter, justice system advocacy, trauma counseling, and it really is the opportunity to, we offer the opportunity for victims to heal, to move forward in a nonviolent life, and to really begin the transformation of having their families live a life that is happy, violent-free, and one that is really filled with hope. So again, I want to thank you for recognizing this issue as being important, and thank you for recognizing the Domestic Violence and Child Advocacy Center.
Thank you.
All right, contracts executed by the county executive are attached to the agenda on page 35 for your review. And Mr. Fitzgerald, do you have any comments?
I do. Thank you very much, Madam President. First, I want to echo your comments about Lynn Ruffner. Lynn was a friend of a lot of people here, and I appreciate you mentioning that she recently and unexpectedly passed away. She was somebody who gave a lot of service to Shaker Heights, where she served as a council person. She also worked extensively with the disabilities community, and she was very proud of her son, who was on my staff at the City of Lakewood. She was a friend, and she's going to be missed by the whole community. Secondly, I just wanted to mention, as you may know, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Secretary Castro, was in Cleveland this morning. The City Club hosted, and some of you were there, Councilman Schron and others were there, along with a whole host of people, actually from all over Ohio, talking about the importance of early childhood education. So we had folks there from Columbus and Toledo and Dayton and Cincinnati, representing both the public sector, the private sector, and the nonprofit sector. It was a great panel discussion, but it recognized the administration in Washington's recognition that Cleveland has been a leader in this area. And in particular, they were mentioning our Invest in Children program, which we're very proud of, which has existed since approximately 1999, and also the investments that we've made during the course of your tenure, in the last 4 years, our tenure, where we have increased funding in one way or another for early childhood education every single year. And in particular, the fact that we partnered with the city of Cleveland in a way that a lot of counties do not, quite frankly, most counties do not, in their Pre-4CLE program, which is the expansion of early childhood education for kids in the Cleveland Public Schools, which we contributed $1 million to. So I didn't see how much coverage it got, but it's an important issue, and it's nice to have the greater Cleveland area getting some recognition for having our priorities straight. Lastly, I just wanted to mention briefly, I know there's a number of amendments that are going to be proposed and addressed and debated and voted on today regarding demolition, but I just want to thank all of the partners that have participated in that public process that we've had in the last year. We've had discussions about it for the last 4 years. If the county was going to make a major investment, we didn't do it in the first year, second year, or the third year. I made a proposal during my State of the County address earlier. Council, I truly appreciate them working with us and doing a lot of hard work, along with, again, all the constituent parts, whether it's community activists, the land bank, all the various folks in the nonprofit, Council President Kelly and his colleagues on the City of Cleveland side. I don't know what the final form is going to be because I can't predict. I never predict what council is going to do, but I can't predict what's going to happen with all these various amendments. But what I can predict, what I hope I can say with some confidence, is that we're making a major step forward. We're making a major investment, and we have identified this major challenge as something that county government is taking partial responsibility to try to correct. And that was something, again, some counties haven't taken that on. But just like back in 1999, we took on the issue of early childhood education. This investment of approximately $50 million is a very powerful statement that we are taking this as part of the mission of county government. We may change the strategy, we may tweak the direction of our policies, but the important thing is that we have taken this on as one of our fundamental core responsibilities. And I'm very proud of that and very thankful to everyone who supported that. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Item 9, legislation introduced by council. Committee reports and consideration of resolutions of council for second reading, adoption, and suspension of the rules. These matters have been to the committee, and we need a motion to suspend Rule 9D to waive the third reading.
Madam President, I move to suspend the rule. Second.
Moved by Mr. Gallagher and seconded by Mr. Jemian to suspend Rule 9D. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. First item.
Resolution number 2014-0238, a resolution confirming the county executive's appointment of Harriet Shaw Applegate to serve on the Cleveland-Cuyahoga County Port Authority Board of Directors for an unexpired term ending January 28, 2016, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Conwell and seconded by Mr. Gallagher. Ms. Conwell?
Yes, Madam Chair, this committee would like to recommend Ms. Applegate to the board. Ms. Applegate shared in committee that her other board appointments on the Workforce Investment Board, as well as the Economic Development Board, along with this one, has no conflict, and her appointment will only enhance all three boards. There was no response from the Inspector General's office stating there was any conflict. This committee recommends passage of this appointment.
And I will add that we did make a request for the Inspector General, and we haven't received it back yet, but I'm going to go forward. If the Inspector General comes out with something later, we can deal with it then. Oh, okay. Any other questions or? All right, all those in favor of the nomination of Ms. Applegate indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations to Ms. Applegate if she's here. All right, next item.
Resolution number 2014-0239, a resolution amending the 2014-2015 biennial operating budget for 2014 by providing for an additional fiscal appropriation from the general fund in order to meet the budgetary needs of a county department and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
By Mr. Miller and seconded by Ms. Conwell. Mr. Miller?
Madam President, my colleagues, this fiscal item provides just over $26,000 to the Personnel Review Commission to hire 2 employment testing specialists for the remainder of the year to start the process of enhancing the county's civil service testing program. Passage implies an ongoing annual commitment of about $150,000. Enhancement of the civil service testing program is central to the PRC performing its responsibilities under the charter, and I ask for your support.
All right, any questions of Mr. Miller? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. And I guess Mr. Miller did point out, like, this will set up the testing program, hire the people to do the testing program, right?
President, we currently do civil service testing, but this will enhance that
Okay.
process.
All right, thank you. All right, item B, consideration of resolution of council for third reading adoption.
Resolution number 2014-0227, a resolution confirming the county executive's reappointment of Cheryl King Benford to serve on the Cuyahoga County Law Library Resources Board for the term September 23, 2014 through December 31, 2019, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Conwell and seconded by Mr. Jemana. Ms. Conwell?
Yes, Madam Chair. Ohio statutes have created additional roles for the law library. In 2010, legislation expanded the existing statutory responsibilities to encompass all local governments. The county has 2 appointments for this board. Each member serves a 5-year term and receives funding from the traffic fines. Ms. Cheryl King Benford is up for reappointment to this board, and Ms. Benford stated in committee that she is interested in continuing her service to this board. So this committee asked the body to confirm the reappointment of Ms. Benford.
Any questions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations to Ms. Benford.
Resolution number 2014-0228, a resolution adopting various changes to the Cuyahoga County non-bargaining classification plan and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Conwell and seconded by Mr. Jemana. Ms. Conwell?
Yes, Madam Chair, this resolution addresses changes to the non-bargaining classification plan per the request by the PRC. This new classification is for employment testing specialists to assist the PRC with preparing tests for the civil service examinations. This committee recommends passage.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Resolution number 2014-0229, a resolution amending the rules of council and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Ms. Conwell. Mr. Miller?
Madam President, my colleagues, this resolution updates the rules of council and simplifies the number and types of resolutions that we handle. There are no major changes to current practice. As the rules change, it requires 7 affirmative votes to pass, so please vote yes. Thank you.
Okay, any questions, comments? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right. Item C, consideration of ordinance of council for first reading and referral to committee.
Ordinance number 2014-0033, an ordinance amending Chapter 701 of the Cuyahoga County Code by adding Section 701.08, 701.09, and 701.10 to establish guidelines for financial management of operations and a long-term financial plan for Cuyahoga County.
This item goes to finance and budget.
Ordinance number 2014-0034, an ordinance enacting Chapter 703 of the Cuyahoga County Code to establish a procedure for the county to enter into delinquent land contracts with qualified taxpayers and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
This goes to finance and budget.
Ordinance number 2014-0035, an ordinance amending Chapter 303 of the Cuyahoga County Code to update the Civil Service Code of Cuyahoga County and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
This goes to human resources. D, committee reports and consideration of ordinances for second reading. Ms. Schweitzer.
Ordinance number 2014-0006, an ordinance enacting Chapter 714 of the Cuyahoga County Code to establish guidelines for the County Community Development Block Grant Fund Program and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
This matter will be moved to November 12th for third reading.
Ordinance number 2014-0030, an ordinance enacting the Cuyahoga County Appointment and Confirmation Act and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
This will be on for third reading for November 12th.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And that won't be a Wednesday because the 11th is a Tuesday and we have a day off. Item E, consideration of an ordinance for third reading adoption.
Ordinance number 2014-0023, an ordinance amending Chapter 202 of the Cuyahoga County Code by adding Section 202.18 to establish a Department of Sustainability and to provide for the powers and duties of the Director of Sustainability.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Ms. Simon and seconded by Mr. Hairston. Ms. Simon, do you wish to be heard?
Thank you, Madam President and colleagues and everybody here who's been helpful in giving insight about the importance of this department and what it can accomplish. With a dedicated Director of Sustainability, we really will have an opportunity to grow a green economy, to collaborate with municipalities, other political subdivisions, and residents of the county to enable them to become more efficient and save money, and at the same time be able to address the environmental degradation we're seeing from scientist-proven global climate change. So this is a win-win. I think we're going to see triple bottom lines, and even in the aspect of our housing demolition and strategic planning with the housing plan that I foresee, we're going to be able to really embrace opportunity on so many different fronts, grant writing, and focus on our own county properties as well as of other residents and municipalities. So I'm excited about this. I appreciate everybody's time. We've gone through a couple different hearings where we heard from business communities, all different stakeholders from all over the county. So I appreciate the support I've had and the really engaged conversation about this. So I want to say lastly that Common Good Ohio, who was here, they were able to get over 2,000 signatures from residents from our council districts, and I have the petitions here from all our different districts, so I'll be able to pass these out to the council people to take a look at what's come in on that. So I appreciate the support and look forward to working with everybody about making this a success. I mean, it really, the right person in this job will be able to really make a difference.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Miller.
My colleagues, I'm happy to be a sponsor of this legislation with Ms. Simon, as it will provide coordination to the county's efforts toward a wiser use of the planet's limited resources. Although climate change has received the most attention, we are depleting the Earth's resources in many ways: deforestation, land use, fresh water, air quality, extinction of species. Through this Department of Sustainability, we in Cuyahoga County will do our part locally to build a sustainable future, and we will become more efficient and provide better services in the process.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right, any other comments? Mr. Schron?
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, there's probably nobody, I don't believe, more supportive of the environment. I've demonstrated this in my own actions, reclaiming one of the worst environmental sites in the entire state of Ohio. We've won numerous awards in my organization from across the country, and even to include Mayor Jackson recognizing what we do at our organization. Last year at his sustainability conference, he identified Juergens Incorporated as a model of sustainability and what we do in our actions and our activities. I'm always concerned when we start creating brand new departments in government and start creating brand new bureaucracies. The idea and the concept of sustainability is something that I live in every day. I will be supporting the voting for this, but I will be conscious to make sure that we are not spending and creating brand new financial programs that go out to do economic development in a specific area when we already have programs that were created by the current county executive The $100 million Western Reserve Fund is designed to grow jobs and develop jobs in all aspects of this county, not just to pick a single aspect. And so I will be conscious of watching to make sure we're not creating separate funds for one form of job and job growth when we already have one that is designed to sponsor and support all jobs and job growth that was already put forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations, Ms. Simon. All right, legislation introduced by the executive, consideration of resolutions for first reading adoption under suspension of the rules. We need a motion to suspend Rule 9D and 12A.
Madam President, I move to suspend the rules. Second.
Moved by Mr. Gallagher and seconded by Mr. Germano. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. First item.
Resolution number 2014-0249, a resolution amending the 2014-2015 biennial operating budget for 2014 by providing for additional fiscal appropriations from the general fund and other funding sources, for appropriation transfers between budget accounts, and for cash transfers between budgetary funds in order to meet the budgetary needs of various county departments, offices, and agencies, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Ms. Conwell. Mr. Miller.
Madam President and my colleagues, first of all, I would like to make a motion on behalf of the Department of Development to amend by deleting item J, which is the item that appropriates $9,250,000 for 4 economic development projects to be funded out of the Casino Revenue Fund. The department would like to introduce the fiscal resolution and legislation on behalf of the 4 projects concurrently at the November 12th meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. It's been moved and seconded that we delete those items. Yes, because there was concern about these items when many of us reviewed this, and we were going to refer it to committee, but then it'll come in on a separate item. Is that correct? Okay. All those in favor of deleting the items indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. So those items are deleted, and we'll talk about those at the next meeting. Any other comments on this particular item, Mr. Miller?
Madam President, this resolution mainly provides for appropriation of grants and routine transfers within accounts. It does appropriate an additional $1,567,000 to cover additional personnel costs at juvenile court. This results from non-budgeted pay increases for non-bargaining staff and overtime expense. When we hired 10 additional detention officers earlier this year, we hoped that the additional cost would be partially offset by reduced overtime expense, but such reduction has not occurred. This resolution also provides $143,000 to upgrade the HVAC system at the county airport. This is being funded from the general fund and is a permanent use of reserves. I ask for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anything else? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Resolution number 2014-0250, a resolution approving a collective bargaining agreement between Cuyahoga County and Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council, representing approximately 163 employees in 4 classifications at the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas for the period February 1, 2014 through December 31, 2016, directing that funds necessary to implement the collective bargaining agreement be budgeted and appropriated, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Ms. Conwell, seconded by Mr. Germana. This is the item that we discussed in executive session, and this has been recommended by the administration. So is there any other statements or comments? I think this was a very fair and equitable solution, and it's consistent with the other patterns that we've established with employees.
That's true, and we recommend approval.
All right. Any questions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, consideration of resolutions for first reading and referral to committee.
Resolution number 2014-0251, a resolution making an award on requisition number 24534 to East 22 Redevelopment LLC for a lease with an option to purchase county-owned property commonly known as the former Juvenile Court Complex, located at 2210 Cedar Road, Cleveland, for the period January 1, 2015 through December 31, 2059, authorizing the county executive to take all necessary actions and to execute all documents necessary to consummate the contemplated transactions, authorizing the Director of Public Works to administer the project, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
I'm going to refer this to Public Works, and I'd like to just congratulate Mr. Jones on this. Mr. Jones and I actually have worked on this together, but I'm very pleased that this is progress in terms of turning the old juvenile court complex into a very meaningful institution and reusing that building, and I think it's going to be really a wonderful project. I'm looking forward to seeing it go forward. And we'll hear about it in Public Works.
Resolution number 2014-0252, a resolution making an award on requisition number 31792 to Shook Construction Company for design-build services for the Emergency Operations Center project located in the city of Broadview Heights, authorizing the county executive to negotiate, enter into, and execute an initial contract with Shook Construction Company in the amount not to exceed $2,148,732 for the period November 12, 2014 through November 12, 2016, and to execute all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Let's go to Public Works.
Resolution number 2014-0253, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of Cuyahoga County Sales Tax Revenue Bonds, Series 2014, for the Lakefront Pedestrian Bridge Project in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $10 million for the purpose of acquiring an interest in and paying or reimbursing a portion of the cost of constructing and maintaining a pedestrian bicycle bridge to be located between the northeast corner of Mall C and the downtown lakefront in the vicinity of the Great Lakes Science Center and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum, and spanning railroad tracks owned by Norfolk Southern, CSX, and Amtrak, Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority waterfront line tracks, city-owned property, Amtrak parking lot, Memorial Shoreway, State Route 2, including the main line and access ramps and Erie Side Avenue, and for the purpose of paying capitalized interest on the bonds and paying the costs of issuance in connection therewith, authorizing the preparation and use of a preliminary official statement, authorizing the preparation, execution, and use of an official statement, approving and authorizing the execution of a trust indenture and a continuing disclosure agreement, authorizing other actions related to the issuance of the bonds, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Let's go to Finance and Budget.
Resolution number 2014-0254, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of sales tax revenue bonds of the County of Cuyahoga, Ohio, in a principal amount not to exceed $35,800,000 for the purpose of refunding all or a portion of the county's sewer district improvement bonds, Series 2000, and advance refunding all or a portion of the county's sewer district improvement bonds, Series 2005, and various purpose general obligation limited tax bonds, Series 2009A, tax exempt, authorizing the preparation and use of a preliminary official statement, authorizing the preparation, execution, and use of an official statement, approving and authorizing the execution of a trust indenture, one or more escrow agreements, and a continuing disclosure agreement, authorizing other actions related to the issuance of the bonds, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Let's go to Finance and Budget.
Resolution number 2014-0255, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of Cuyahoga County Sales Tax Revenue Bonds, Series 2014, County Facilities Improvement, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $168 million for the purposes of paying or reimbursing the costs of constructing, maintaining, expanding, refurbishing, renovating, upgrading, improving, furnishing, and equipping the Cuyahoga County Administrative Headquarters, the Cuyahoga County County Corrections Center, the Justice Center, the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Justice Center, the Medical Examiner's Office, the Office of Emergency Management, the Jane Edna Hunter Building, and certain other related improvements and facilities operated by the county and for the purpose of paying capitalized interest on the bonds and paying the costs of issuance in connection therewith, authorizing the preparation and use of a preliminary official statement, authorizing the preparation, execution, and use of an official statement, approving and authorizing the execution of a trust indenture and a continuing disclosure agreement, authorizing other actions related to the issuance of the bonds, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Goes to Finance and Budget.
Madam President?
Yes.
If I may ask in advance of the Finance and Budget meeting to which these past three items would be held, if the fiscal office could please prepare an analysis as to what the issuance of these sales tax bonds would be on our cash flow, as well as our sales tax revenue, because we have to be mindful, the hotel also was pledged against future sales tax revenue. I believe the $50 million pending legislation on the bonds is pledged partially or in whole with those same dollars in these three items as well. So I'd like to understand the full ramifications of the issuance of bonds on our sales tax collections.
Thank you, Mr. Greenspan. That's a good question. So we want to know what is our maximum bonding capacity, and we need to know that before we can adequately make a decision on these. All right.
Madam
Mr.
President,
Miller?
that meeting will be on November 10th.
Okay.
Week from Monday.
Okay. All right, next item. And we better bring our lunch and stuff, right?
Sleeping bags.
Okay.
Resolution number 2014-0256, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of County of Cuyahoga, Ohio, tax-exempt economic development refunding revenue bonds, Series 2014C, Medical Mart Convention Center project, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $21 million for the purpose of providing monies to pay costs of a project within the meaning of Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 165, authorizing the preparation and use of a preliminary official statement, authorizing the preparation, execution, and use of an official statement, approving and authorizing the execution of a bond purchase agreement, a bond registrar agreement, and a continuing disclosure agreement, authorizing other actions related to the issuance of the bonds, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
It goes to Finance and Budget.
Resolution number 2014-0257, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of County of Cuyahoga, Ohio, taxable economic development revenue bonds, Series 2014B, Western Reserve Fund, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $24,500,000 for the purpose of providing monies to pay costs of projects within the meaning of Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 165, authorizing the preparation and use of a preliminary official statement, authorizing the preparation, execution, and use of an official statement, approving and authorizing the execution of a bond purchase agreement, a bond registrar agreement, and a continuing disclosure agreement, authorizing other actions related to the issuance of the bonds, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Goes to Finance and Budget.
Resolution number 2014-0258, a resolution making an award on requisition number 30390 to Caremark PCS Health in the amount not to exceed $40,189,733 for group health care benefits for county employees and their eligible dependents, including pharmacy benefit management services, for the period January 1, 2015 through December 31, 2017, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
It goes to Human Resources.
Resolution number 2014-0259, a resolution making an award on requisition number 30390 to Medical Mutual of Ohio in the amount not to exceed $116,156,022 for group health care benefits for county employees and their eligible dependents, including medical and pharmacy benefit management services, for the period January 1, 2015 through December 31, 2017. Authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Goes to Human Resources.
Resolution number 2014-0260, a resolution making an award on requisition number 30390 to United Healthcare Services Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $68,308,890 for group health care benefits for county employees and their eligible dependents, including medical benefit management services for the period January 1, 2015 through December 31, 2017, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Go to Human Resources.
Resolution number 2014-0261, a resolution making an award on requisition number 30784 to Pictometry International Corporation in the amount not to exceed $1,378,626.27 for geographical information system data and software, aerial photography, and related professional services for the period September 1, 2014 through August 31, 2018, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Goes to Finance and Budget.
And resolution number 2014-0262, a resolution authorizing an amendment to agreement number AG 1200-285 with Educational Service Center of Cuyahoga County for fiscal agent services for the Families and Schools Together program in connection with the Ohio Children's Trust Fund fiscal year 2013 grant program for the period July 1, 2012 through September 30, 2014, to extend the time period to September 30, 2015, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $614,036, authorizing the county executive to execute the amendment and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Goes to Education, Environment, and Sustainability. All right, item C, committee reports and consideration of resolutions for second reading, adoption, or suspension of the rules. We read a motion to suspend Rule 9D.
Madam President, I move to suspend the rule. Second.
Seconded, and we suspend Rule 9D. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Resolution number 2014-0242, a resolution authorizing a revenue-generating utility agreement with Village of Oakwood for maintenance and repair of storm sewers, sanitary sewers, and water lines located in County Sewer District Number 18, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Jones and seconded by Mr. Jimana. Mr. Jones.
Madam President, Oakwood Village is now the 35th city. Out of our 59 municipalities, this is now the 35th city to now choose our Public Works Department to deliver their storm sewer, and sanitary needs. There's circumstances, as we know, the state budget cuts. This is an opportunity for cost savings for the city of Oakwood Village. Could be part of consolidating of services. There are many reasons why, but again, Oakwood Village is now the 35th city to partner with the county now with this. So I do ask for your support and passage of this legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 2014-0243, a resolution authorizing an economic development collateral enhancement in the amount not to exceed $5 million for the benefit of Schofield Properties, LLC, for renovation and redevelopment of the historic Schofield Building located at 2000 East 9th Street, Cleveland, authorizing the Deputy Chief of Staff of Development or Director of Development to execute all documents consistent with said collateral enhancement and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Mr. Schrein and seconded by Mr. Miller. Mr. Schrein?
Yes, this is an innovative program that the Economic Development Department of Development has brought forth, and I think that we need to recognize that this is a way to expand our ability to service customers. It's not something that's traditionally been done. I think it's probably the first time that it's been done. I don't know if Mr. Kelly or Mr. Bender want to speak to this, but I think it's important because this moves us in a different vein, moves in a different direction. It says that we are going to provide a surety behind the backstop of it, but we're not going to actually use our funds to actually do the loaning. They will just be sitting there as a support function. So just like we were able to use the Port Authority to do something similar in my own business, where they were able to create a development base and then allow it to expand, I think that this is putting us on a venture where we can actually multiply the ways in which our dollars are going to get used without necessarily having to loan them out there, but they can sit there in a security backstop out there. So I'm excited about it. It's a great new program, and I think we're setting a new path for economic development here.
Thank you, Mr. Schrein. Yes, Mr.
Just as an additional commentary to this, and I will be supporting it, but I think my colleagues, it's important to understand that this is, although not technically classified a loan, it does meet a number of the characteristics of a loan, meaning that this money is at risk. We are accruing interest. Although the money is not leaving our account, we're encumbered from using it for any other purposes. Furthermore, just as a final note, this will be reflected on our financial statements as a reserve on our demands, and demand on our reserves, which will have an impact on our reserve balance of 25%. So just want to make that point clear.
Madam President? Yes. To Mr. Greenspan's comments, yes, it will be reflected on our financial statements, but also what we'll be doing is we'll be earning monies on this because we'll be charging a fee for the fact that our funds are a backstop in providing surety behind the borrower. And so as a result, we're going to make money at a higher rate than we're currently making in the investment vehicle. And as we go forward, as the rates start to move up, and eventually someday they will, so will our charge fee move up correspondingly.
Yes, Ms. Green.
This is a great project, and I want to support this and have my name added to it. I think it's really innovative, and I appreciate the tools we've been given in the toolbox for economic development that go beyond, the four corners that we're used to. So thank you to the administration for this.
Madam Chair, add my name.
Yes, Ms. Conwell, Ms. Simon. All right, anyone else? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. 0244.
Okay, just to confirm the additional sponsors for that are Ms.
Simon and
Conwell
Conwell.
and Simon. Thank you. Resolution number 2014-0244, a resolution authorizing an agreement with City of Chardon for participation in the Cuyahoga County Benefits Regionalization Program for the period March 1, 2014 through December 31, 2016, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Conwell.
Yes, Madam Chair. There are currently 12 regionalized benefit partners, and the City of Chardon will be the 13th. These agreements were established since 2011. This agreement will allow City of Chardon to be under the county's umbrella and realize significant savings for healthcare costs for their city. This committee recommends passage.
All right, anything else? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. 0245.
Resolution number 2014-0245, a resolution authorizing an agreement with City of Cleveland Heights for participation in the Cuyahoga County Benefits Regionalization Program for the period September 1, 2014 through December 31, 2016, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Ms. Conwell and seconded by Mr. Germana.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is like the one we just previously voted on, except this is with the City of Cleveland Heights. So this will make the 13th regionalized benefit partner in this grouping, and this committee asks that this be voted passage. Thank you.
Mr. Germana?
Madam Chair, I want to add that, we're able to do this and give this advantage to these various partner cities but there's no risk to Cuyahoga County on our fund. So that's very important. You know, we're able to help these cities, but we're not in peril.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes.
I'm over here.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to make a quick comment about that on this item, only because it's the third item, arguably more than three items, but the third item that explicitly is talking about regionalism. And there was so much discussion 4 years ago or in decades past about how are we going to become a more united community in terms of a greater metro area. And a lot of those discussions revolved around formal mergers, cities not becoming cities anymore and merging themselves. That almost never happens. It's very difficult to do administratively, politically. People are very attached to their own identity as communities. And what you have here tonight is you have three items. First, with the storm sewer and sanitary sewers, then with the healthcare benefits, and now with the crime lab and its services. They are services that are being provided regionally, that should be provided regionally, where local communities are not losing their autonomy or their independence or what makes them special as a community, but they're saving money because they are basically outsourcing those services to a larger government entity that is still responsive and is still local but can do it more efficiently. And so I just wanted to make that note that we're making real progress, not in terms of just mergers, because that's only one way to measure regionalism, but in terms of actual sharing of services. I think that's what the future of this metro area is going to be, and I'm very appreciative of council's support for these items. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Yes, Mr. Germain.
I'd just like to add, there's number 4, Mr. Executive, and that's the Department of Sustainability, because we are going to be collaborating with local governments.
All right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 0246.
Resolution number 2014-0246, a resolution authorizing a revenue-generating agreement with City of Cleveland in the amount of $2,033,333 for crime lab testing services for the period November 1, 2014 through December 31, 2025, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Gallagher and seconded by Mr. Germain. Mr. Gallagher?
Madam President, thank you. As this states, this is a revenue-generating agreement with the City of Cleveland for crime lab testing services. Dr. Gilson, our medical examiner, is here and did want to say something.
Excuse me, Dr. Gilson, if you'd hit the button. Is it green?
There we go.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I see this as a real significant step forward in what the executive was just talking about in terms of providing high-quality regional service to all the communities in our area, and the City of Cleveland supporting that financially with this contract. I came here today because I regretted I couldn't be at the committee meeting. I was chairing the child fatality review the day that took place, and if there were any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gilson.
And the committee recommends adoption and would appreciate support.
All right, any questions, comments? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, moving on to item D, consideration of resolution for third reading adoption. Item 0234.
Resolution number 2014-0234, a resolution authorizing a Pay for Success contract with Mental Health Services for Homeless Persons Incorporated, doing business as Frontline Service, and Cuyahoga PFS LLC, in the amount not to exceed $5 million for an intervention program that provides various services addressing basic needs, housing placement, trauma therapy, and family reunification services to children in foster care and homeless families of children in foster care for the period January 1, 2015 through December 15, 2020, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with this resolution and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
It says moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Hairston.
Madam Chairperson,
Yes.
as you can barely hear me. There were at least 2 hearings in the Finance Committee, and we also held a hearing in the Health and Human Services Committee due to the nature of the legislation, partly because of my voice, but mostly because Councilman Miller was the lead sponsor in the council on this legislation. I will defer to him on this unique legislation.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Miller.
To my colleagues, this resolution provides the Pay for Success contract to implement the program for which we previously created a funding account and made an initial $1 million appropriation. The program will enhance services to homeless women who have children in foster care. We intend to reunite children with their families more quickly, producing better outcomes and saving county dollars by reducing time in foster care. Frontline Services will provide the direct services and Enterprise will provide project management. Several foundations and private funders will pay for the services up front. If expected cost savings are achieved, the county will reimburse the funders for the cost of services with some interest and incentives. This contract will make Cuyahoga County the first in the United States to implement a Pay for Success program at the county level. I know that Councilman Greenspan has circulated a letter suggesting that the costs are not worth it, and in response to that, I would talk about what we're getting. Number one, protection against loss if expected savings are not achieved. If we do not achieve any cost savings, we will not have to pay a dime for over $2 million in services. Second, we get a controlled scientific study of the treatment model. And third, we get a national demonstration project. I believe that this is a very significant undertaking and an important way of providing services that we believe are going to have long-term cost-saving benefits but can be difficult to fund up front. And I ask for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Greenspan?
Great, thank you, Madam President. As my colleagues have, as Mr. Miller alluded, I presented a letter yesterday, and I won't read the entire letter, but I'll paraphrase parts of it. And I'll just start with the beginning. It says, I'm writing this letter in opposition to this resolution. My opposition is not focused on the Health and Human Services Division of Children and Family Services Program. As a matter of fact, my advocacy is to internally financially support the initiative. My opposition is focused on the funding mechanism contemplated, known as Pay for Success. The Pay for Success concept is designed to offload the financial burden of unsuccessful programs to investors who provide funding for social impact bonds and to reward those same investors with interest and incentives for program participation. Generally in business, it's appropriate and acceptable and is a standard business practice to obtain loans at a reasonable price, i.e. interest rates and other related fees and incentives. This financing concept is too expensive to the taxpayers of Cuyahoga County. The program costs, which I've outlined on this document, totaled $3,325,000. However, the financing incentives and closing costs are $1.675 million, or 50.4% of the total program costs. Additionally, we're being asked to reserve $5 million, $1 million a year, to provide the financing guarantee to pay back the social impact bonds. My proposal is to fund the program with existing resources, readdress the social impact bond market with a proven track record of success. In business, we often develop a plan, prove the plan, and then scale the plan. Mr. Merriman has done a good job in developing the plan. I believe it would be beneficial for us to prove it with internal resources and then at a later date address the scalability of it. Once we've demonstrated success internally, we will effectively develop our credit rating in such a way that I believe we will not be paying such a high cost to fund this program. So with that, I encourage my colleagues to vote no on this. Let's send this back to committee. Let's readdress the funding component and fund this internally until such time as we have a track record, because paying nearly 50% is not, in my opinion, an effective use of taxpayer dollars, and is too expensive to the residents of the county. Thank you.
All right, anyone else have any comments? What if you start with Ms. Conwell, and then we'll go to Mr. Jones?
A statement, Madam Chair. I believe in thinking outside of the box as well and trying to create some cost-saving mechanisms in the long run for the county. This Pay for Success model is an example of thinking outside the box, but we must also consider the holistic approach that will be the end measurement that we're trying to accomplish. Getting housing and treatment is just the beginning step that is needed. What is the end solution? It should be in helping individuals maintain the housing and becoming independent of the system. In order to do this, you need to have the tools available for their success. In the Health and Human Services Committee, we had presentations from the One Community sharing the problems we are facing with regards to digital divide that is occurring in our county and all over the nation. Participants will need assistance with being computer literate in order to become independent. And I've spoken to Chief Deputy Merriman in regards to this. And if they are to move in a self-sufficient manner, if this is the goal to have individuals be self-sustaining, then we should include the tools that are needed. A lot of hours and days was put into this model, and I commend everyone for their hard work to get to this point. But in moving forward with future models for success, then we need to make a holistic approach and make sure it's looked at. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, when I first saw this, and we first saw this roughly 2 years ago, I remember thinking, you know, it's kind of convoluted. You know, we're getting private sector money, $5 million, and we're putting up $5 million, and there's going to be savings, and but we're helping the foster care system and creating savings. And like I said, I thought it was convoluted. But after hearing it several times, I said, well, maybe it's not convoluted, it's just complicated. But now I'm starting to see a little more clearly just how this money is flowing. If we're able, and it's a good thing to bring $5 million in from the private sector, and if there's savings, they're going to get a return on their investment. Okay, it's actually like a credit card. It's like having a credit card using someone else's money, and you pay back and they get a return. Well, the difference here is it's not a simple credit card. We have to put $5 million up as well, encumber that money, which we could just spend it ourselves. But by encumbering $5 million, what we're doing is like collateralizing our credit card. Instead of them just trusting us and giving us $5 million, we're securing it with our own $5 million. Well, that's all right if we need to establish credit with them, and that's what we're actually doing. When this program gets off of the ground and is successful, it's my feeling that as council, if things are successful, then the private sector should start to recognize the fact that we shouldn't have to encumber $5 million of our own money to use $5 million, roughly $5 million of their money. Okay. If this works, then they should recognize that we are credit worthy, and we should be able to find some ways to use their money to have savings, but not necessarily encumber all of our money for an equal amount of, roughly an equal amount of their money. So I say we watch it. I support this. We watch it. If and when it's successful, that we start to receive some credit from the private sector to continue this. If not, we could simply spend our $5 million and do the same thing. So, but I do support this legislation, and I will certainly be watching to see that there are savings and that there is an opportunity for the private sector to use their money as opposed to simply encumbering ours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to add my name to this legislation. I want to speak more to the public benefit and to what we're accomplishing for families and the benefit that's going to be coming out of it. And anything that's bold or pioneer is taking a chance. And I think we'll be rewarded for for stepping out and taking that chance. So I'm in favor, and I'd like my name added.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
No, we don't
We're not-
need to
We don't
hear
need
from
him, no,
him.
this is our meeting. Okay, anyone else on council have any other comments?
Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Okay, calling the roll for resolution number 2014-0234. Mr. Brady? Yes. Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
No.
Mr. Schron?
No.
Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hairston?
Yes.
Ms. Simon? Mr. Greenspan? Mr. Miller?
Yes.
And Ms. Conley?
No.
Motion carries 7-4.
All right, next item. Consideration of ordinance for third reading adoption.
Ordinance number 2014-0014, an ordinance establishing the Cuyahoga County Property Demolition Program and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
All right, the original motion has been moved by Mr. Jones and seconded by Mr. Hairston. Okay, and I believe there's a proposed substitute by Mr. Greenspan.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to follow up, 2 weeks ago, we discussed a concept that I had presented regarding modifying the program from a grant program to a forgivable interest-free loan concept. Obviously, respectfully, I understand my colleague's position. This amendment, though, retains the grant language, but also adds a voluntary provision of the political subdivision to accept an option of a loan, same terms, interest-free, forgivable. However, if the community does pay back the loan, then the community would receive outside of this existing program a grant equal to 50% of what their loan repayment was. The reason I think this is important, and we all openly acknowledge and realize that $50 million does not solve the issue in our county. And I have significant concerns as I've addressed this council regarding our ability to continue to bond out and provide additional funds for this program. We have not been presented with any follow-on funding, nor currently, although I believe there are amendments coming that discuss programmatic and other restrictions to help us maximize the dollars. What I'm trying to do here is provide a vehicle for which this needed concept can be perpetuated. The loan concept, I thought, was that vehicle. I respect my colleague's position in the grant offering, and I ask that my concept be added as an option to the municipalities. They don't have to choose it. I candidly believe that we won't see cities take advantage of the loan opportunity until this $50 million is almost utilized, because then at that point, they would realize that they've got a greater need and there's money available, and they would opt to exercise a loan option to receive a grant to help supplement their operations and activities as it relates to this issue. So I urge support for this amendment, and it does not change anything else other than what I outlined here and is clearly demonstrated in the amendment. So I make a motion to substitute.
I'll second.
I think Mr. Brady had seconded first. He's whispering. You know, and we're gonna give you the honey to take home. You can make. All right, but just lemon and honey, nothing else. Okay, all right.
Scotch, good scotch would go with one. too.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Greenspan and seconded by Mr. Brady on this proposed substitute. Is there any discussion on that?
Yeah, I think that to provide a grant alternative and a loan alternative to repay is, there's nothing that's taking away from, I think, the original idea behind the program. And all it does is if that should that option be exercised, it's a way to replenish and repay of monies back into the fund. So I see no downside risk and only an upside gain that we'd be able to expand beyond the initial $50 million.
All right, is there any other questions or discussion on Mr. Greenspan's amendment?
Madam President, I'll say that I support Councilman Greenspan's legislation. I've said before, I believe these monies should be granted to the communities. Any return that they see, I believe they should be allowed to use it within their own communities to continue to provide critical services. But it is optional. And any community that sees the benefit in exercising the option to repay these dollars, I think they should have that opportunity. So I do support Councilman Greenspan's legislation.
Madam President, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Of the sponsor? When we're talking about this potentially going beyond the life of the $50 million, I don't see how this can be in this piece of legislation. What I'm hearing is that this will give communities an opportunity to apply for a loan when this money runs out.
No, I'm sorry. No, what I'm saying was within the confines of the 50 million. Once the 50 million's gone, it's gone. But as we draw down, as communities utilize these funds, and there, say, is $5 million left, but the need is greater, at that point is when a community may elect for the loan option. So upon repayment, they would be able to receive a grant. Once the money's gone, there's no money left.
Yeah, that's my question, because you said there's no difference in this, but I see that there's a provision in H that says that once the principal, if a community decides to take out a loan and they pay the principal down in full, then they have an opportunity to receive a grant equal to 50% of that principal amount.
Right.
So
where's the grant money coming from?
Right.
The grant money is coming from the general fund, because the money that was being used to repay the debt would be money that we now have freed up, which we would then offer back to the community.
So this is a form of a revolving loan fund
Correct.
tangentially?
Correct.
I don't mind this in concept, but I would like to see this fleshed out more, because it doesn't really say that here. This doesn't say where the money's coming from. And are we going to have a separate loan fund that's going to be dedicated for this?
No, because once this money is gone, the 50 million, there is no more money to be loaned, and the grant program is no longer offered.
So this automatically,
Terminates at the same time the 50 million is expended.
but this commits general fund money now. If a community decides to take a loan and they pay it back, then we're already encumbering the general fund down the road by this legislation.
In theory, yes. However, the practical application of these loans would determine the amount of money encumbered. But keep in mind that we are returning the money effectively that's being repaid by the communities.
Okay.
So the net cash flow to the county is actually a savings.
I like the concept of a revolving loan, but because this encumbers the general fund and it's not fleshed out in a separate piece, I would probably support if we were able to talk about a separate part of this at another time. So I'm going to not support it because I don't want to encumber the general fund without an established revolving loan program for this purpose.
Sure.
But I like the idea.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President?
This is our meeting, but what do you want to add to it?
Well, I'm one of the
you haven't-
co-sponsors of the legislation, so
Yeah, but you
one
haven't
of
talked to us about it before, so.
I have through staff, and one of the things that I've talked to individual council members.
Not to me,
But
not to me.
what I would, you're welcome anytime you'd like to have a conversation.
I got a cell phone,
But
Mr. Fitzgerald.
that's great, mine works too. But my point was this, that I just asked the staff that have been working on this, and they'd never seen this amendment before. And my question to them was just they didn't see it until the beginning of this meeting. And if we're talking about adding a loan concept to something, I don't object to zero interest loans, but in terms of my question was quite simple to my staff, and that is, how does this affect the administration of this program? And they can't answer that. So I don't object to the idea of a zero interest loan, but I wouldn't be able to represent, or my staff wouldn't be able to represent, either from the fiscal side of things or the economic development side of things or the housing side of things, exactly how this would work. It is a substantive change that we would not know as of today exactly how it would be administered. I'm not saying that we're opposed to the concept in general. If we want to amend it after, I have no problem with that. But I couldn't, in good conscience, be able to tell the public exactly how this would work. That's my concern.
Madam President.
Mr. Gallagher wanted to comment.
I actually agree with Ms. Simon. If we could pass this with the understanding that we're going to get these questions answered down the line, because at the back end of this, there could be big problems that we don't know. I'm still actually trying to envision the elected mayor and council that's going to pass up free money for a loan to be repaid. But that aside, I think, to follow Ms. Simon's lead and Ms. Fitzgerald, I would recommend we move forward with it, but we get more answers to these questions because they're going to come up.
Sure, and that's fair. And in response to the executive statements, September 22nd, I'm looking back to staff, was the day in which I originally presented the concept of the loan proposal, and it was discussed in various committee meetings, the loan concept insofar as a hybrid loan into this. This document, this agenda was published last week, in which this substitute was presented in the agenda package. My cell phone works as well, and I didn't get a phone call asking from the administration or from the administration staff, any questions about it. So it's been out there since the end of last week, minimally, but I know since September 22nd, we've been discussing it.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Germain.
And, I had the opportunity to speak to some community groups, and basically, I was out there talking about the 4 issues on the ballot for the charter. But given the opportunity, I did talk about this particular situation with the demolition fund, and I brought up the idea of this loan fund because it makes it more sustainable. And in those meetings, there was mayor, presidents of council, so on, and I actually got good response on adding this loan component to it. At that previous committee meeting, I talked about it being something like cash value life insurance, where you could borrow and get it back. So going out into the community, there's support for making this sustainable by the loan aspect of it.
Thank you. Mr. Schrein?
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I along with Mr. Miller, we served on the Clean Ohio Council, and when applications came in that had a loan component to it versus a straight grant component, we know that one of the things, and I'll be talking about it, I know Mr. Jones has got an amendment, that there's not going to be sufficient amount of money to take care of the size and scope of the program. And so there will be a competitiveness at some point along the way. And I know that from the county standpoint, to get repaid was actually, in following the Clean Ohio, gave it more credibility in those applications than those who just were going for a straight grant request. And so it was, when you get down to a balance and there's only, there's not $2 left, there's only $1 left, but $2 with a problem. It was used as a factor to at least be considered.
Madam President, I'm a sponsor, co-sponsor of this, and if this amendment comes in, it really is different from that which I had anticipated. Because of this program that's not flushed out, it's going to encumber our general fund potentially. I don't see why we can't come together and come up with a separate fund and discuss that in adjacent to this. But this isn't what I signed up for. I signed up for a grant. I had an amendment to increase this commercial amounts, and that changed the nature of this. So if this amendment comes through, it's not what I envision. I like the idea of a revolving loan, like I said, but this is not thought out. We don't even, everybody's on board with encumbering the general fund as a matching grant. We don't have a budget that far out yet, so that would have to be part of our budget discussions now about addressing any matching grants that come through a loan at the end of the $50 million. Did anybody think about that?
Madam Chair, I don't understand what the concern is about encumbering the general fund, because we're going to be enhancing the general fund with the money. So, the funds coming in, that's where the money's coming in. So we're giving back half in the form of grant.
Madam
So-
President, I want to address this
Let him
to, well,
finish.
no, because the point is we don't have that flushed out. I don't know that the money coming in from the repayment of this loan is going to be used to, where's that going, we don't have that in place, that this money that's repaid is going to go into the general fund and we're going to secure it to reloan money. That's not anywhere. This money can be repaid and end up at the dog kennel, fine. I'm kidding, but that's right. If we had something set up that way, then I would be assured that that's how the money would be used. But right now, it's wide open, and there's no guarantee that that money is going to go for this purpose in a separate budget line. That's exactly the point.
Mr. Brady?
I hear what the councilwoman is saying, and this is obviously one of the more interesting, controversial, and complex pieces of legislation that this body's dealt with in a long time. I'd like to say that there are loose ends, and we can only wait so long to move forward. And it's our intention to be able to set up, following Mr. Jones's amendment, the ability to really dog this legislation and deal with the issues that we know are going to come up. This is a big budget, a big ticket item. It's very unique, and we are going to have to stay on top of it. And so, what I would just ask for is that we keep moving forward and solve the problems associated with it as we run into them, and to the extent that we have more discussion on this particular amendment, that we continue to have that, but we don't hold up the legislation itself on the way to doing that.
All right, all those in favor of the proposed Greenspan amendment, did you have more comments? I'm sorry. No, I did. All right, all those in favor of the proposed Greenspan amendment indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
All right, let's call the roll.
Okay, calling the roll for ordinance 2014-0014, the Greenspan proposed substitute. Mr. Brady? Yes. Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell? No. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hairston? No. Ms. Simon? No. Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
And Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Motion carries 8-3.
Okay, then we go forward with the substitute as amended by the Greenspan amendment. Mr. Schron, I believe, also has a proposed substitute.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, I think that my colleague, Mr. Brady, summed it up very eloquently in saying that there are some loose ends. And I'm actually pleased that my colleague, Mr. Jones, has actually got a proposed amendment also on the back. And if you look at the two, there's a parallel path between what I'm suggesting and what Mr. Jones has suggested here in there. And I just would start out by reading and looking at what I've got written in my proposed substitute, that knowing that the size and the scope of the problem is greater than the funds authorized within this program, with the establishment ranges running from as high as $125 million to as high as $250 million, it's essential for good government and effective use of the taxpayers and citizens of Cuyahoga County's money that every effort be made to identify and select the best applications on a competitive basis. We know that we are going to, if the dollar amount is $250 million, we know we're going to disappoint 4 out of every 5 people or applications or communities when they come forward. So what I'm trying to do here with this substitute is to fix some of the loose ends. Currently, the way this legislation is written, it says that the Department of Development shall be the final authority for all determinations. What that means, the way it's written now, is the Department of Development is the final authority for all determinations, but then we're also saying that the Department of Development will be the final executing authority to actually put these plans in place. And if you have the same body ruling up or down on one of the proposals coming from a community, and then being that same body that is actually the ones that is going to be implementing it, we have lost any checks and balance in regards to it. And I think you'll see that Mr. Jones is bringing the same kind of concept of a check and balance in place with his suggestion on his amendment later. All I'm doing is actually putting a few more completions of the ideas and thoughts, because once you establish that somebody is going to get turned down on their application, and we know that as high as 4 out of 5 are going to get turned down, there is no other word to call it but competitive. Somebody is not going to win, and somebody is going to lose in regards to it, and others are going to win. And so what I'm suggesting with this substitute is that the word non-competitive just be changed to competitive, and recognizes that fact. No other change has been done in any of the criteria. No other change has been done in the way we administer it. And again, I will just analogize to what was done in the Clean Ohio Fund. We had a separate body that actually made decisions on a go, no-go, but the Department of Development was the one that actually had to carry out and implement that program in place. We would not be doing anything any different with my suggested substitute here. And the suggested substitute is, and I just put names and identifications of members of a body that would be on there. And this body concept is very similar to what currently exists in our county charter when we created the Economic Development Commission. We had identified bodies that would be things like one from the county council, one from the county executive, and they had a list of those. And all I did was try to make a complete list that brought forth somebody from the land bank, 2 people from the Department of Development, 1 from the local first-ring suburbs, 1 from the city of Cleveland, and then 1 from the mayors and managers. So now that we have everybody at the table and recognizing that it's a competitive basis, because it will be. As soon as we spend $1 more than $50 million, somebody is going to have lost in regards to it. So that's the concept. It does not change any of the criteria that was written out there in the original points, the 1 through 6 points out there. It only says that instead of the Department of Development being the final arbiter, it was this review panel, and it does take that burden off of the Department of Development being the review panel, and makes them the ones who carry out the mission of whatever the decisions are made. So that's the background of what it is. If you look at it, I think it's probably not a whole lot different than what Mr. Jones has said. The only difference is it actually addresses it in a little more specificity out there in regards to it. So that's the proposal, and I move for purposes of discussion.
All right, moved by Mr. Schrein. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Conwell. Mr. Brady.
Yes, I'd like to say that I appreciate the fact that the councilman has engaged this issue in a serious way. I think what's been amazing over all of these months since Councilman Jones introduced this legislation is that we have actually come to a point where we are unanimous about the fact that we want to do this. And it's very difficult to have exactly the same idea of how to go about doing this, and that's the conundrum. But in fact, I appreciate the fact that it is unanimous among this council that we do want to have this program, that we are willing to appropriate these funds, and we are trying to take care of this problem. So to the extent we have differences or slight differences or significant differences, at least we're really all on the same page with the executive. So while I can't support this legislation as it stands today, because I think it's significantly different from what we've been discussing from the beginning, I appreciate the effort, and I'm hoping that the amendment sponsored by Pernell Jones will be will help us to continue to engage each other on how we finish up this work.
All right, anyone else on Mr. Schron's amendment? Mr. Miller?
Madam Chair and my colleagues, I think that my colleagues has put forward some good concepts, and I would encourage the Department of Development to take a close look at this and see if some of these ideas could be incorporated as we develop this program. But as Ms. Simon often recommends, in this case, I would actually like to see less specificity in legislation. And I think particularly the idea of having exactly $10 million per round and having the rounds be exactly 6 months apart. I would like to give the Department of the Development the flexibility first to see if maybe more money than 10 million can be put into the first round if we get a lot of high quality applications and really get this thing going, and to time the subsequent rounds depending on the experience of how the communities progress in carrying out their programs. And so for those reasons, I don't support including this language in the legislation, but think that the department should continue to look at the concepts that are presented here. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Schron, you want to respond?
Yeah, just a couple things from Mr. Brady. I guess I would only comment that I don't think this is significantly different than in core, but maybe perhaps I'm missing the biggest difference is do you have the same body deciding on this, Department of Development, that is actually implementing it? And so if you follow Mr. Jones's recommendation, I think it's going to find you'll end up the same place in regards to that. And my reasoning for the $10 million on that, Mr. Miller, is that for the first 3 years, we have a $100 million Western Reserve Economic Development Fund. And it's taken us almost 3 years to get around $30 million at work out there. So to pick a goal, an objective, I did talk with Mr. Frango on that and asked what the speed is that he thought that these monies were going to be going out. And everybody that I've understood in testimony is 3 years is the pace to which they would be going out. If we don't set a goal on that, the 2.5, we know that the first $9 million is already spoken for in this legislation. So we're only really deploying $41 million of that. And to not set a goal means that we could be looking at this also in 3 years, and we still haven't put these dollars to work. So putting out a goal that says that we will have it out there working in 6 months at $10 million fits and coordinates with what Mr. Frango has believed that we could get this all out there working in 3 years. It was to set a goal, work on it, and make sure that it gets implemented out there. So that was the purpose for setting a $10 million. But it does say $10 million or greater if that would be determined by the Department of Development if they could implement it. But it's going to be a lot to implement the speed of any of these programs out there, because there's going to be overlapping with the Department of Development on the dollars that they already have working in the Western Reserve Fund and all the other funds that they've got in place. The other thing that I wish to mention is that if we don't change this, that means that the county executive, whoever that'll be, will be making 100% determination as to how these dollars are being utilized, because the Department of Development will be the sole arbiter for putting the decision as to who gets the funds under this program, and they'll be the sole arbiter of how it gets implemented. And so I just think, I throw that out there only.
Don't you trust who the next county executive is going to be?
I will not reserve that comment. Sure, they're both in the room. Yeah. But I would think that that's why, specifically why they created a checks and balance when the Clean Ohio Fund was created. So the Department of Development was not the arbiter and the implementer. And I think that it's important to break that difference between it. And yes, I do trust either one of us from that standpoint, but I do think that a check and balance would be very beneficial.
Madam President, if I may.
Mr. Gallagher.
I think at this point, Mr. Brady is the arbiter of what is reasonable. Mr. Jones's amendment coming up takes care of, if not all of my concerns and many of Mr. Schron's concerns going forward. So instead of mucking up the waters here and worrying about who's got control, I think Mr. Jones takes care of that for us. And that places it firmly in the hands of the people I trust most in this room, us. So I would suggest we move forward.
All right, let's call the roll on this item. So, call the roll on the amendment, on the Schron amendment.
Substitute.
Okay.
On the Schron substitute.
So calling the roll on ordinance 2014-0014, the Schron proposed substitute. Mr. Brady?
No.
Mr. Germana?
Madam Chair, I like the substance of what Mr. Schron is proposing, but I think that's a good start once we approve Mr. Purnell Jones's. So I'm going to vote no, even though I like most of what Mr. Schron was suggesting.
Mr. Gallagher?
No.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
No.
Mr. Jones? No. Mr. Hairston? No. Ms. Simon?
No.
Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller? No. And Ms. Conley?
No. All
The
right.
motion is defeated.
All right, let's go on to Mr. Miller's proposed substitute.
Madam Chair and my colleagues, unlike the two previous proposals, this amendment is non-substantive, and it simply clarifies language that if you read it literally, it could say that you might expect a grantee to do something that would be in conflict with the bond's tax-exempt status, and this language clarifies that, very similar to the language that I suggested at the last meeting. But in the meantime, we conferred with the law department, and they tweaked it a little bit, and so it would read that the grantees make a commitment that the applicant will take or cause to be taken such actions that may be required of it for the interest on the bonds to be and remain excluded from gross income tax for federal income tax purposes, and B, will not take or authorize to be taken any actions that would adversely affect that exclusion. And I would note a typographical error in what's been handed out. Instead of that the application, it should read that the applicant. So with that, I move the amendment.
All right, moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Brady. All right. All right, any discussion on this item? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. So we're now on the substitute amendment as substituted by Mr. Miller. And now Mr. Jones.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President. As you know, this legislation was first considered back in February, and I'd like to thank everyone who's been a part of this legislation over the months. This legislation was not crafted in a vacuum. From the administration, from the land bank, to Cleveland City Council President, Council Member Tony Brancatelli, all of County Council has worked hard at crafting this legislation, and so many within the community, from our mayors and elected officials across this county. but it comes to a point when you have to act, you have to vote and begin to move forward. But I always say legislation is organic. What we do today is not the end of the process, it's really the beginning. And I've heard all the concerns of my colleagues over the months and even tonight, things that have been said. The amendment that I'm putting forward today, in spirit, comes from Councilman Schranz. Although I did not support his substitute proposal, I do believe it was too radical of a change in my estimation, whereas the other things that we've seen today have, I consider them minor and tweaks. This amendment will give us an opportunity to, again, consider this legislation organic, see the need to continue and to improve what the product that we're putting forward today by having a committee that provides oversight. This committee will, in my estimation, and it's very general based, but as we flesh this out, it's not so much about, well, let me say it, to me, it is about recognizing that there will be needs that need to be addressed that we have not considered now. I've talked with cities, and they have legitimate concerns even now, and those concerns, I think, need to be addressed. And by having a committee that can help us do as the legislation says, make this efficient and effective, I think a committee could play that role, and it shows that we are not just turning this legislation over and moving on, that it's a complex problem. $50 million is only a start toward a problem that is closer to $300 million across this county. We are the foreclosure crisis capital of this nation, and no local county has put this type of dollar anywhere in the nation that I can find. So we are putting our money where our mouth is. We should not let this opportunity pass to take the first step, but let's recognize that work needs to be done and that we can continue to develop this legislation and develop the policies from the administrative side to make this program as efficient and effective as it can and as I expected and hope it to be. And I do ask for the full support of all of my colleagues. This problem impacts every aspect, every part of this county. Every outer ring suburb is paying $45 million in additional property taxes. If we could start to move the needle in the other direction, we can begin to right-size those property taxes. Their property values have been earned, hard-earned, in cities like Strongsville, Westlake, the east side of Cuyahoga County. This means something to them, even if they have not faced a loss or faced any blight or any significant vacant properties. First ring suburbs, this means much to them. First ring suburbs budgets have been devastated because of their tax base, loss to their tax base. And we know the issues in Cleveland, the blight, the criminal activity that takes place out of these properties. So every aspect, every part of this county is impacted negatively by the blight that we see. And by moving forward collectively, and I do ask for complete support, bipartisan support for this, and recognizing that, again, with the problem being closer to 300 million, once we pass this legislation, once we watch this legislation, we should advocate collectively for the dollars that are out there at state, federal level through bank settlements, banks who've played a significant role in the damage that has been done, that we collectively advocate for the dollars necessary so that we don't have to, again, have a crab in the barrel mentality about these dollars and get the money that's necessary. But I think that comes when we have a collective support. So we use that term loosely. I ask for my colleagues' support, but I genuinely ask for the full support. The amendments that are here, I think, have captured the concerns of our colleagues to the best of our ability. But this is too important an issue to allow it to fall by the wayside with a no vote tonight. So again, I do ask for your support collectively for this legislation, for this amendment and the legislation as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Jones, this amendment has been moved by Mr. Jones. Is there a second?
Second,
Seconded by Mr. Miller. Any discussion on this amendment?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Miller?
Madam Chair and my colleagues, I support the demolition legislation and want to commend Councilman Jones and Councilman Brady for the leadership that they've provided in moving this from a basic idea to a better fleshed out concept. And it will provide a significant county response to one of our community's most important problems. Successful implementation will unlock the full potential of neighborhoods throughout Cuyahoga County as quality places to live and work, enabling us to reverse the tide of abandonment, outmigration, and population loss. To be successful, communities need to embrace the language contained in the legislation that encourages strategic thinking and good planning. Properly applied, this program can be like yeast and create a lot of positive growth in Cuyahoga County. I also believe that because of the great amount of local knowledge that each of the council members have about their districts, that this is an area where council oversight would be particularly effective. And for that reason, I also support Councilman Jones's amendment. Thank you.
Ms. Simon, and then Mr. Greenspan, and then Mr. Schwan.
Thank you. I'll address the proposed amendment first. The first issue is that I don't envision this to be councilmatic oversight. This should be, I agree with Councilman Schwan on this. This should include members of the community to which this money should benefit, and that would include the FERB Suburbs Consortium, mayors and managers. I think if we're going to have such a committee, and this amendment is here with oversight, it can't just be council. It has to be members of the community. So I would ask that we add some general language that this committee will include more than council, and that would include our mayors and managers and communities, including the first suburbs. First of all.
All right, Mr. Greenspan?
Great, thank you. Just a couple questions on the language. And to the author, where it says the council intends to establish. Do you mean shall? This seems ambiguous, that if council does not act, there's nothing to compel it to act. If we say council shall establish, then we are required to do so. I don't know. I'm looking to Mr. Jones.
It is in the whereas clause. It's not in any of the actual provisions of the, so even if you put it as shall, it's just a whereas clause at this point.
Then where's the now therefore? Where's the actual meat of the action?
I think I wasn't part of the draft. I think the whole intent is to put that in the legislations for future legislation to come through.
Well, that was going to be my next question then, if that was the intent, because I was going to ask the composition of this committee. Was that going to come forward as part of separate legislation as to who would comprise members of that committee? And I guess I look to the author, unless Mr. King, whomever. I'm just trying to understand this better. No? All right. I'm sorry.
Yes, that my understanding is that this would be coming forward in forthcoming legislation. It's similar to existing whereas clause provisions already in the legislation related to establishing a countywide housing strategy as well. I mean, the whereas clauses, both of them, speak to future legislation, not necessarily the substance of this piece.
Okay, and then the kind of a hybrid concept, maybe if it's because it's in the whereas, looking at Mr. Schron's, looking at the two kind of side by side, this committee is to supervise. Are we saying that the committee itself is going to supervise the administration, the Department of Development? Is that? I'm just trying to. I'm not trying to shoot this out. I'm just trying to understand.
Mr. Brady, do you want to address that?
What? I'm sorry about my voice. It's ironic, isn't it? What we are trying to acknowledge is that there are lots of different issues across the county that may put us in a position where one size does not fit all, and that, but that in fact this council, after long deliberation, is appropriating this money, And so at least initially, I believe that this council has every right to exercise its oversight authority that's inherent in the bodies as an institution. And so I would see this committee, which will be, legislation will be introduced defining this committee, and we will be tweaking this legislation as we go along, as we determine what issues we're going to run into. Councilman Jones was sharing some insight to me with today about one community. Other councilmen have discussed issues in other communities. Councilman Miller has mentioned that, who knows better than the 11 of us about the diversity and the different needs across the county. And so we are trying to thread the needle. We all 11 want to do something, and we'd better move forward, or we're not going to move. We're not going to move at all. And so I'm asking for support for Councilman Jones's amendment, as undefined as some members may be concerned about it, in order that this council moves forward on this issue and not languish in an endless debate, as is quite possible. Because I think that this entire legislation could collapse if we continue to debate the essential appropriation of the $50 million continually.
Madam President?
Yes, Ms. Simon.
Then I don't think we should, why do we even need this language in here if the fundamental meat of this legislation is, we're in concert about accepting the premise in this legislation. Why do we need this? I mean, we set up committees all the time. We set it up for the real estate. If we're going to have language in here, then we're going to debate what an oversight committee is. So I don't know why we need it, first of all. But if I'm going to support this legislation based upon Councilman Greenspan's amendment, then I would like to add an amendment that creates a real short language that creates a revolving loan fund that will be in place to receive any loan repayments, and that the source of the grant referred to in Section H will be paid from the revolving loan fund referred herein. That language then ensures that if...
All right, Ms.
So those are a
Simon, can
couple
we-
things.
All right, yeah, let's
Two
deal with
things.
this one, then we'll deal with yours.
So
Okay.
I guess I don't want this amendment because I don't think we need it at all in this legislation. And we should come back as a separate committee, and then we can talk about what that's going to look like.
All right, let's call, you have one comment, Mr. Schwan?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that my colleague, Mr. Brady, said, that we do have 11 of us all on concert with the objectives of what we're talking about here. So if we were to take and spend time to build and bring the best of what Mr. Jones has, and hopefully the best of what I have, is 2 weeks, not going to be delaying this forever because we have 11 of us all in concert and agreement. I think that we could find the ability to bring things like the inner city, our first ring suburbs, and bring those folks into that oversight so you could actually try and build that definition in it, because I think it's a little bit open. We all know that we don't have enough money, and the number now has gone, relatively from 50 to 300. The word is supervise, and what does that mean? And if it's an oversight truly, it means you have the authority to actually say that the decision was not good or was good. And so I really think it's more than just supervising. So if we can define what that oversight committee looks like, and I don't know that there's any harm in 2 weeks to spend this time, because we already have concert and agreement on all the rest of the core. If we can get to this one last piece.
Madam Chairperson.
I think I want to call the roll on this, on the Jones amendment.
If I could say one final thing. No one has done anything in this nation as ambitious as $50 million, and I can see why. We need to vote. We need to, I urge my colleagues to support. It's not perfect, but it has, I did not support Councilman Schron's substitute proposal. I felt it was too far away from the original legislation. I did not consider the other things that we've considered today to be out of reason. But that one I did. We did not make this legislation in a vacuum, and I don't think many of our colleagues even saw the proposed substitute from Mr. Schron. But this, as I read it, there was some merit. And because of that, I put this amendment in place, as Councilman Schron has said. It speaks to the spirit of his piece. And what I thought was of merit, I encaptured in this amendment. And I placed it in the whereas clauses because it gives us an opportunity. It doesn't mandate that we do anything, but we know whereas clause is not a mandate. The Councilman Dave Greenspan said, if you put it down in the where 2-4s, then you have to do it. Okay, so, but it recognized the spirit and the effort and hard work that Councilman Schron put towards this. And it gives us the time to actually flesh out something in a way that will be beneficial to the cities of this community. But if we debate it over and over and vote it down because it's not perfect today, then that would be a mistake. I believe this legislation is strong enough and will benefit the residents of this county and the cities of this county, and we can continue to develop it. It's organic, it will grow, it can be improved on. But it can't be if we vote it down now and not support this. So again, I ask for your support.
Madam Clerk, call the roll on the Jones Amendment.
Calling the roll on ordinance 2014-0014, the amendment by Councilmember Jones. Mr. Brady? Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher? Excuse me?
Yes.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones? Mr. Hairston?
Yes.
Ms. Simon? Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
And Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Good.
All right, is there anyone, Ms. Simon, do you have another amendment?
I do. I have an amendment to address the revolving loan fund. Just some simple language that we would add as section I on page 6, which would be section 807.03 B, I'm sorry, I guess B. Okay, I'm sorry, it's 807.03, and we would add I, which would say that a revolving loan fund will be created to receive any principal loan repayments referenced in section H. The source of the grant referred to in section H will be paid from the revolving loan fund referred to herein.
Second.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that item? And did the clerk, did you get
that?
down?
Okay.
Okay. Gallagher was the second. All right, any discussion on this item? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it as to this amendment. Now, finally, this item has been amended 4 times, and we are prepared to have a vote on the item as amended to go forward.
I just have a question, or a statement.
Okay.
Before we vote. I just wanted to address, I guess, Councilman Schron's notion that somehow this is only going to be the deliberation of the grant awards and/or loans that might occur. Is only with that department, but there's a Board of Control aspect to this, that there's a balance there. So I just wanted to bring that part up too. So all of these will be subject to that. And I also was looking for an amendment, which I'm not introducing now, that the $100,000 would be raised to $200,000, which would give a little bit more latitude to communities that have differing needs. So down the road, when we're looking at this evolving piece of legislation, I hope we can look at that. That's my only comment. I'm going to support this with the amendment we put in.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to add my name.
Okay.
Chair, last week I proposed a concern and suggested we consider allowing each municipality rewarded in the grant cycle to include repair. And there was some inner-ring suburbs that agreed and came down and expressed their concern. They didn't come this evening, but I want them to know that the bond council issued a legal opinion regarding the legality of using bond proceeds for rehab projects, and they concluded that this could not be done, especially when we pledged tax proceeds for the issuance of the debt. So I wanted them, the entering suburbs that weren't able to come tonight, that, you know, I did propose and push for the rehab as well in that, but since we have legal opinion, we can't, and I've always supported this amendment from the beginning, just wanted to include the rehab. So hopefully in going forward with the committee process, we can talk about other things in regards to that, and especially housing plan for Cuyahoga County.
All right, so at this
And
point, we're
Madam
prep-
President,
Yeah.
before we actually vote, I just want to also acknowledge our council staff who's been phenomenal. Mike King, who you've seen present today, Khalil Seren, they've worked tirelessly on this. And on the administration side, everyone has, but I didn't mention them earlier, so I don't want to forget them. Along with the administration, Nate Kelly, who's been phenomenal. So we wouldn't be here where we are. We wouldn't be where we are today without the hard work of these individuals. So just wanted to acknowledge you all.
All right, now, so we're prepared to vote on the original amendment, original ordinance as amended by these 4 different amendments, okay? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations to everyone. All right.
Madam Chair, if I
Yes.
may, I just wanted to take a look at the sponsorship, and if everyone's okay with the sponsorship as listed.
I believe Mr. Germana added his name tonight.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and item 11 is by the clerk.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is just on the agenda, my report on legislation that's been withdrawn at the request of the sponsor, and it's just ordinance 2013-0018.
Please note that our next meeting is November the 12th, which is a Wednesday because of the Veterans Day, or the November 11th holiday. We'll be having a committee of the whole on a budget item at 3 o'clock, a regular meeting at 5 o'clock. Then the meeting after that will be on committee of the whole on a budget item for November 17th at 1 o'clock, a regular meeting on November the 25th, and another committee of the whole on December 2nd. Miscellaneous committee reports, anyone? Start down here. Mr. Miller?
Madam Chair, you already mentioned the budget meetings. Thank you for that. And also, we saw a large number of finance and budget items introduced
Are
today.
you bringing lunch?
Madam President, I'll bring lunch.
Okay. No, you bring vegan. What's a hamburger over here?
No, I'll bring lunch.
But he's telling me that we can't meet the day before the election, so we're going to meet on Monday, November 10th at 1 p.m. And then we'll also have a second meeting on Tuesday, November the 18th at 3 p.m. as I anticipate that some of the items will require more than one meeting.
Okay. And Mr. Miller, I'm sure that you will make sure that someone from Finance and Budget from the administration will be here, because we've had other meetings where the people were not here too.
I will do my best to
Okay.
ensure that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Committee report?
A committee meeting? Are we
Yes.
scheduling those now?
Yes.
Public Works will meet, again, 8 days from tonight to deal with the items referred today.
Madam Chair, Human Resources Appointment and Equity will be November 18th due to Election Day on one of the Tuesdays and Veterans Holiday the following, so it will be November 18th at 10 a.m.
And Ms. Simon?
Have a education environmental committee meeting on November 5th at 3, and we'll look to change the times as we move forward.
All right, is there anything else for the good of the order? Any public comment? Miscellaneous business?
I just have one comment,
Yeah.
Madam President. I want to thank the executive, because his ideas at the beginning of our new government about regional collaboration, his demolition fund pronouncement and his state of the county. This all came to fruition in this legislation, and we had so many examples tonight of that leadership. And thank you, executive, he's not listening, but I appreciate his vision and how council has carried it out in conjunction with his administration, so thank you.
Anyone else? Any public comment unrelated to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, we stand adjourned.